right, it's election night in America and the control of Congress, of course, on the line. Thanks for joining us here at CBS 6 in the studio. I'm Bill Fitzgerald. Joining me now this evening is our political analyst, Dr. Bob Holsworth. Bob, thanks for coming in as always.
Always good to be here on election night, Bill.
So let's run through some of the congressional races that we're following here at CBS 6. The first and fourth, that is the first district, incumbent Republican Bob Whitman.
Yeah, Rob Whitman wins pretty handily. We thought he was going to. He has represented that district for a while. It moved from completely up toward from the northern neck into Chesterfield and Henrico as well, and he's won that pretty handily tonight. And
of course, incumbent Democrat Donald McEachin in the fourth.
Yeah, Donald McEachin, that district, he has certainly part of Richmond. He has Richmond. He has part of Chesterfield, part of Henrico. He wins pretty handily over Leon Benjamin, just as we thought.
Now, everybody's talking, of course, about the seventh, which is dramatically different than it was just a few years ago. Abigail Spanberger, the incumbent Democrat, in a tough race against Yesli Vega. How is that coming out so far? Do we know which districts are, and especially whether the early or absentee ballots have been?
I think we still have early vote to come in, but what's interesting about that, 75% of the vote is in. Spanberger is down by about 9 points. However, the Democrats still are pretty confident that they're going to be closing the gap in that district, largely because they've looked at some of these rural areas that have come in, and Spanberger is doing as well as Joe Biden did in 2020, and Biden won that total district by 7 points. So they think that when the more Democratic parts of that district come in, it's going to look a lot better for Abigail Spanberger than it does right now. But we're going to keep a very close watch on that right now.
And a couple of the other races that are competitive, or in this case, some of them turning out not to be so competitive, perhaps. The second down in Virginia Beach, Lane Luria. The early results so far, or at least just under half the precincts reporting, she's behind significantly.
Yeah, she's down by 11, but again, people are going to say, is all the early vote in? Is that going to narrow when we get the early vote and the absentee vote? And we don't quite know about that district yet. I've always thought that was going to be the toughest district for the Democrats to hold, largely because in the redistricting process, Luria, who had won 2 close races previously, lost Norfolk, which was a heavily Democratic area for her. So we'll have to see what happens as these other votes come in. But that was always going to be, in my mind, the biggest uphill challenge for the Democrats in these competitive congressional races.
And the other one was the 10th up in Northern Virginia, Jennifer Wexton. She seems, at least so far with the results coming in, to be prevailing.
She has a very close lead in the vote that has come in so far. But in talking to people and contacting people, they believe that the votes that remains is likely to be fairly heavily Democratic. So they're feeling pretty good about that on the Democratic side right now. I think the Republicans are a little anxious about that race. They had hoped that maybe in a red wave they'd be able to take that as well as the second and seventh. But I'm not sure that's going to happen tonight.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob, for your insights, and of course, continue to keep our eyes on those races. Now, the stakes are high for Democrats and Republicans, and of course, Americans in general. The balance of power in Congress at stake right now. Our Leland Pinder joins us now here in the studio to take a closer look at some of those races. Leland?
Yeah, Bill, take a look at this. This is how things look right now in Washington, D.C. in Congress. Democrats control the House, but not by much. And the Senate is split 50-50, as you see there, but Democrats have control here because Vice President Kamala Harris has the tie-breaking vote. Now, Republicans hope to retake both chambers tonight, but on the House side is where Virginia really comes into play, as you just heard Bill and Bob discuss. Republicans need just 5 seats, and there are more than 5 Democratic seats considered vulnerable, 3 of them right here in the Commonwealth. A quick recap for you again in Virginia, too. Centered around Virginia Beach, Democrat Elaine Luria is going into this in a dead heat with Republican State Senator Jen Kiggins. Luria's gained more recognition lately for her work on the January 6th committee investigating the insurrection at the Capitol last year. In Virginia 7, Democrat Abigail Spanberger is a popular incumbent, but in her redrawn district, she is going up against Republican challenger Yesli Vega, and that is shaping up to be quite a fight. In the 10th in Northern Virginia, Republican Hung Cao hopes to unseat Democratic incumbent Margaret Wexton as well. So we'll see how all these races turn out here at home, but CBS News has predicted Republicans will win the House tonight, surpassing the 218 seats that are needed. Bill?
All right. Thank you for that, Leland.